Hey guys, it's Hayley here from Obsessed Hub, and today we have got part 2, and we're talking all things suicide, suicidal thoughts, suicidal tendencies, and people who have had loved ones that have experiences with suicide or people that have suicided. I don't know how many times I can say suicide in one sentence, but I just gave it a red hot crack. So the whole point of having this part 2 is because we want to continue the conversations. It's one of those subjects that not a lot of people are comfortable discussing. And actually, I want to say a big, huge thank you to both Siggy and Lex. I mean, we're cool too, Renee. It's just that it's such a thing where men don't necessarily naturally want to discuss and talk about it. So I want to say thank you very much to my guests today. We have Ziggy, regular from part 1. We're actually all from part 1 too, but we've got Renee Kosh and we've got Lex as well. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
No worries. So, I'll kick it off and I want to go straight to you because you were the person that was behind the mic last time. You were not in front of the camera and you were giving such awesome bits of wisdom because you actually have had experience of your own with suicide. So we'll get straight into it, right? So what was that like? What got you to that point, Lex?
It was at a point where I wasn't able to open up. I wasn't able to talk. I wasn't able to express what was actually going on. I thought it was all inside me and no one would know how to deal with it. And I didn't feel comfortable opening up, didn't want to drop into that space of vulnerability. I was in a high pressure role, employed a lot of people. I got my family. Everyone was relying on me and just felt like the pressure was just couldn't show vulnerability and wanted to crack in front of my family, in front of my staff, customers, and that the walls were closing in and there was no other solution but to close up shop and leave.
Well, because you actually, I've known you for a short time, but it feels like I kind of have a really good grasp of who you are as a person. And you are very good at, you're the guy, and it literally is the people that kind of carry on and be like, oh, no, everything's fine. I'm good. You always have a very positive, upbeat approach to most things. But quite often, I think with most people that are experiencing things like suicidal thoughts, it really is just a mask or a show.
Yeah, but you wear a mask. You put a mask on, you turn up, and depending on what the environment is, what mask do I wear today to not let people see what's actually going on inside. And that's that for me is I wore this great mask. And everyone could see that I was fine on the exterior, but on the inside, I was in turmoil.
Okay, we're all sat here, and I was actually saying to you earlier, Ziggy, you've got a brother that recently suicided.
Yeah.
You've had, experiences with your sister that she's still here. She never actually was successful.
No,
but it blows my mind how most people just have an experience with it. I don't even know what I'm trying to put into words here. Well, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but it's such a subject. It happens so often. It is actually like a normal thing, yet we're made to feel like the suicide, right?
It's always the ones that you least expect.
Yeah.
I've been to 3 suicide funerals and everyone says the same thing. I never expected this. I was always so happy.
Yeah.
They never showed any signs.
And it's happening younger as well too. So I had an 18-year-old nephew that took his life.
Yeah.
And
what was that over? Do you know?
He had issues with a girlfriend. It was up in Gladstone. Rocked a community there. There was football teams. He was a beautiful young man. You wouldn't have thought. No one knew. He came for an apprenticeship to work for me as a diesel fitter. He left that and he then moved back up to North Queensland, back up to Gladstone, and then he didn't fit in, and he was around in different areas, and we got a phone call one day, and here he was. He'd taken his life.
I think it's the ripple effect that people don't actually understand either. I know it's one person that they're in pain, they do it, but it just creates a massive amount of chaos that they don't understand.
Oh yeah,
that's the hard part.
Well, I don't think people realise how many people actually love you. That's the biggest thing, is that people I know for me, I didn't realise how loved I was, and the same thing with Corey was there was a community that absolutely loved and adored him, but he didn't know how to feel it. He couldn't feel it from people, and I think that's the other part is when people are in that point of wanting to take their lives is that they're not feeling love, or they don't know how to love themselves.
You're closed off, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing, and that's where I was going with it. Like, I know that you've had like such a close experience with it, but just before we actually came on air, you said, well, I've actually thought about it a few times.
Yeah, definitely when I was younger as well.
Yeah. And so are those, and this is the thing, right? So like, and this is what I kind of want to dig deeper into. Are those thoughts fleeting, or are they there all the time and you're constantly resisting them?
I think it just comes down to where you're at in your life. I think
What you're experiencing.
Yeah, and who you have around you at the time. And, you know, when you get stuck and trapped into a situation where you think you can't get out, that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
And you need to have positive friends there. If you don't, just move them on.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. And if you don't have any friends, well, that's an even bigger problem, isn't it?
And it's interesting you say that. So support network is so important.
And yeah, mental health. Mental health's a big side of it, but I think more physical health is another big part. And if you don't have a way to exercise like boxing or gym or a sport or a hobby, or you'll meet people, you know, you make friends and so on, or relationships with, that can save people's lives too.
And I think people get stuck in their own minds as well, you know, like,
definitely.
and then they think I'm a burden. People are going to judge me. No one will understand. No one gets what I'm feeling. And, you know, and it's about really thinking to yourself, well, people do care and someone will understand, and finding that one person that will understand so that you can share what you're feeling with them, I think is so important as well. And it's such that stigma around, you said mental health. And I hate that word, mental health.
I was going to bring that up.
Hate it.
I know.
And hate's a strong word, but mental health, I say it with my clients as well. Like, can we go back to that word that you just said, mental health, and can we call it mind health? And let's talk about working on your mind health, and let's get out of your head, because when we get stuck in our own heads, there's never the elephant in the corner of the room, but it appears that it is.
And it's a double-edged sword, right? So the
Totally.
word mental, you know, like it's just
makes
got
you
a
feel
nice
crazy.
It's because they use it so many times. It's all over the TV. It's over
Yeah.
Facebook. It's over everywhere. It's all about.
It's also not tangible
It's
either.
crazy.
And humans can't attach to something that's really kind of like not tangible. But it goes back to that old saying, like, you know, before you decide to diagnose yourself with anxiety or depression, or anyone else does that, you've got to first check to make sure you're not surrounded by assholes.
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
We are the 5 closest people that we hang around. So take a look at your friend circle.
Yeah.
Who are you hanging around? What are you doing? What's going on?
And influencing your life choices.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your experience, Renee? Because I know that you've had an attempt at suicide, and you've also got experiences with other people.
Yeah. So my attempt at suicide could have, I was, you know, could have succeeded. I was at the point where right as it all was happening, and I took the overdose with the alcohol and all of that stuff. It was in that moment, which is what happens to a lot of people, right? Yeah. I don't want to die. I don't want this to happen. But I also have lost friends that are very close to me. And one of my friends who I lost, and it took me about 3 years to get over, and I was his last stop. But I never realized I was his last stop. But I felt something wasn't right with him that day. And I never said anything. And that, I think, was something that I held on to for so long, was like, if only I had have said something. And I knew that the next morning when one of our other best friends tried to call me, I knew he had done it. So when I finally spoke to him, I said, he killed himself, didn't he? And he's like, how do you know? And I said, I just know because I tried to contact him after, and he never answered my calls, and he always answered my calls.
There's got to be a level of guilt that comes with that. Like, I could have done something.
Yeah,
but
and there
you can't.
was.
And that's part of the damage, the destruction that you talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that is it. And you don't necessarily rationally think about it. And that's it. And that's the thing. And it's all well and good. This is part of my point. And you talking about mind health, and which I really love. I'm a huge advocate for that. You can't, how can you get through to people that are actually experiencing high levels of turmoil and irrationality and get through to them with rational solutions, and expecting people to actually start to make decisions based on rational thoughts and feelings?
Absolutely. And even like, I lost my brother-in-law last year to suicide as well. And, you know, he'd attempted the first time, and he was in ICU. So very close. And then he reached out to me. And so I was connected with him every day. I was talking to him every day, and he was like, I'm feeling great. I'm seeing a counselor. I'm seeing this person. And, as a hypnotherapist, I was sending him things and I was talking to him, and then he just did it. So sometimes it doesn't matter what a person can say. We don't know what's going on inside someone's mind, that they're just, boom.
And that's the thing, which is why I said sometimes they're just situation, environmental, fleeting.
Absolutely.
And then you've got people that are just constantly battling those thoughts and feelings. Lex, I want to come back to you, because in the last podcast, you actually shared that you got to a point of actually getting there with a rope around your neck.
Yeah. I couldn't find the ladder in the shed. The ladder was in a different shed. But if the ladder was there, it was done. It was happening. And at the moment, I felt I used actually a strap and felt it tighten around my neck. And the thing that came to me was my kids and my wife, basically going, how can I can't leave this mess for them. That's not okay. That was the instance of change for me that stopped me from continuing through.
Then what happened? Because that's a pretty hairy situation. You get to that point, you've got
I'd written the note. I'd written a text message. I'd sent that to my wife because it was early hours of the morning. It was like 3 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. And then,
had you been drinking? Nothing.
No, I was sober at the time. So completely sober. Been sober for 8 years. Yeah. Just reached a almighty low point in my life where I think the hardest part is I was externalizing everything that was happening in my business around me as whether or not I was successful. And I put a rating on what customers would think of me as a service provider, and I copped a massive amount of abuse from 2 customers. We had things that went horribly wrong, and we were failing. So I took that failure, and it was just enough. It was enough for me to internalize that.
It's really fucking important. And thank you again, because I do want to get into the kind of the bits where most people won't ask these questions, but how important. People forget that people in business are actually people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, we've had a recent experience recently where we didn't do the right thing in one of it. It wasn't anything crazy, but it's customer service thing. We dropped the ball. We didn't send something, didn't really communicate very well. But then we got a barrage, the abuse. And what people don't understand, you're still doing business with people. And I know that we're meant to have our systems and our processes in place. But when you drop the ball, does it give someone the right to go hard at someone? And people forget.
Does it really matter at the end of the day?
Yeah.
No. This is the thing.
Really, yeah.
This.
We all make mistakes, and are they actually perfect? The one that does have a go, is that them saying, "Well, I never make a mistake. I'm absolutely perfect."
We're given a gift of a new day every day,
and you can't. Customer, please. You're bloody stay-at-home dad. The children. I want to write a complaint.
They do, trust me. But it's that old saying where you don't take work home and don't take home to work. And there's a boundary there which it's very grey. It's hard. You can't switch off.
Yeah. One of the things I had to do, some of the work that I did around that was I have a set of traffic lights in Hemet that I put the suit on there when I'm going to work, and that's where I pick it up, and then I drop it off there on the way home so that when I come home for my kids, I'm present. I'm coming home as dad. I'm not coming home as an entrepreneur that's full of stress or got a million things at once. It's I leave it there, and I know that the next morning I pick it up there when I go to work, so that there's that transition. And that was something that I didn't know how to do. No one taught me that. No one taught. This is the things. These are the skills that we're not teaching our kids. We're not teaching adults. We're not teaching business people. We're not teaching anyone the life skills of just simple little techniques, or just having presence and remembering you are human, and it's okay to get things wrong. It's okay to not be right. It's okay to make a bad decision. Just don't make it again.
Or if you make it again,
it's a lesson.
That's it. I still say there's no such thing as good and bad decisions. There's just decisions that lead to another decision. And if you need to make a better choice, you make a better choice.
9 times out of 10, when you actually have a problem like what you're facing and you go to sleep, the next day it works itself out anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you go to bed worrying about it for nearly no reason.
Yeah.
That's just the interesting part about it.
And I think another, someone that's experienced it and had the thoughts and also lost friends and heard, other people, it also comes down to, our own self-judgment and self-worth. And like you were saying, you'd let people down, like other people, like my brother-in-law going through things, my friend that, the other friend that committed suicide, he was gay. So again, it was a self-worth, it's a self-value, it's why, I'm feeling alone. Acceptance,
Yeah.
the accepting who you are.
Validation.
And then, thinking no one validates me, or no one, loves me, or no one appreciates
It gets
me.
worse because if you communicate that with people go, if you got to validate yourself.
Yeah. It's like, how do I validate myself, especially if you don't know how to, and, and then being caught in your head of who you are. And it's like, well, come out of your head, and who do you want to be? What's the identity you want to become? And this is how I sort of started to lift myself up, over a decade ago, of, well, who do I want to become? What's a person that I want to be? If I could be anyone, within reason, like we all want to, maybe some people want to be, famous rock stars, but, within reason. Yeah. But, like, who do I want to be? Whether or not it's like just little tiny steps, or reaching out to that one friend that you completely trust. Sometimes it could be a stranger. It could be your neighbor. It might not necessarily.
Actually, you know what? More often than not,
it is.
I like
right?
Like I know you and I have had some like really, really deep, in-depth conversations, like stuff that I would like go down different paths with, and probably wouldn't have those types of conversations with, because you don't tell me what to do. You listen, or like it's not.
It's more of a guide, isn't it?
Totally.
Well,
yeah.
more listen, and kind of like you like.
You don't have an opinion.
But 9 times out of 10, people just want to be heard.
Yes, absolutely.
That's all. They need to be able to express and get it out.
Yeah.
That's all. And this is where I think, our mental health system is broken.
Oh. But is it meant to be broken?
That's another podcast.
It's not meant to be there.
That's a whole different thing.
Let's go there next time.
But this is the problem where it's not. In some cases, it's not about helping the person get better. It's about prescribing something to them. It can be fixed with a tablet.
That's what I said the other day. You go to the doctor and say, why are you so happy? You need a tablet.
Yeah.
And then you go there and you're a bit down. Oh, you're down. We'll give you another tablet. That's just their way of just diagnosing you and
And
getting you
those
out of the
tablets
office.
make people feel like
100%.
killing
Makes it worse.
themselves. It makes it worse. It's put this cloud, and then, it clouds you. Well, I know that, your neurotransmitters in your brain, when you take a drug, whether or not it's pharmaceutical, whether or not it's, recreational, your neurotransmitters take on the chemical in that drug, and now it's not you that's reacting as yourself, it's you reacting to the chemicals in your.
Does it also have to play with the people around you in that environment as well that makes it worse? Heightens or lowers that effect?
Yeah, totally.
Same as alcohol.
And then because you're in that moment, you're on the antidepressants, you're feeling low, then you're attracting that vibration as well.
Same people.
But it's easy as well. Some people that are watching were saying, well, you can say all of this, but you're not me, or you can say all of this, but you're not feeling this stuff. And it's because society doesn't look at suicide as normal. Society looks at suicide as there's something majorly wrong with you and you need help.
But medication is mainstream normal.
Totally.
So how does that even play out?
Exactly. And it's like you are normal.
Well, it's been normalised.
Yeah.
It's been normalised.
Yeah.
Like everything's those things have been normalised. Or we've been fooled into believing that the health system and the mental health system is there to help fix you. But it's not a system based on wellness. It's a system based on how do we make money out of this? How do we commoditize it?
That too, but the thing is they haven't actually taken a serious approach to it either.
Correct.
We've had hundreds of years of physical kind of medical doctors, brain surgeons, people that can physically touch and do things, because it's relatively new. The science is relatively new, so it makes perfect sense that our mental health system and everything else is so shit.
Because there's something that they can't see, like if you've got a broken wrist, where you go to the doctor and they fix that broken wrist.
Well, there's also there's no deniability. You can't go in and say, some people play the system. You can't go in and go, oh, look, my arm's broken. And then a doctor turn around and go, well, I don't know if I believe you. It's either broken or it's not.
Yeah.
And that's the worst part about it, because you go to different doctors, you go to different specialists, and it relies on that human being making a decision as to how bad you are.
Yeah.
And they're a human being.
And they're
a human being
with their own mental health issues.
Yeah.
But they're not there to and they're not there to fix or cure or find the solution.
Move you on to the next one.
Absolutely. And I think, the best thing for myself, from my personal experiences, was finding things like meditation, finding other holistic things
Yeah.
that take you away from that psychiatrist that sits in front of you with a notepad, making you feel like you're actually crazy, and reaching out into, yoga groups or, different things like that, that's taking you out of your mind and out of your what's the word I'm thinking of, like out of your self and into another space where it feels at ease and you're feeling, relaxed, or you're being taken on like a meditation journey, or, hypnotherapy, or there's so many other facets of breath work.
She may or may not be a
Sound healing.
hypnotherapist that
Yeah.
specialises in this field. ReneeKosh.com. Sponsored.
Sponsored by Being.
I love it. It's so good.
But breath work and, sound healing and all these different modalities are really good as well.
Most people, the thing is, there's not enough information in that.
No,
And because it's all
exactly.
dressed as woo-woo,
Yeah.
oh, no, it's not categorical. Like I went to see a surgeon recently, and like I was saying like these things, da-da-da, and he was like, oh, there's no science that proves that. I'm like, don't talk to me, science proves that. I don't want to hear that. Because there's many facets. There is the physical side of things. There's the soul, the spirit, there's mind. There's all of these things. Consciousness. So I want to just like go back to the mental health side of things. When it comes to when you go to a doctor and you're presenting with, did you go to a doctor? Did you actually go to a doctor with your stuff?
Yeah, I got admitted into the Belmont Mental Hospital.
So right. Normally.
And then was assessed.
Yeah.
And then I broke out at 3 a.m. in the morning and went home after being
just
sitting.
visualizing you with the sheets are out the window,
It was a point in time where I was sitting at 1 a.m. in the morning watching. There's a group room and there's people there with serious issues, but you're all lumped together. It doesn't. It's like it's a one size fits all, but it's clearly not. And I was watching this. Poor lady had a sleeping disorder, and she'd make a cup of tea, and she'd fall asleep within 30 seconds of making the cup of tea and spill it on herself. And I watched her do it 5 times. When she fell asleep the 5th time, I went over and took the cup and put it on the table beside her. But I sat there and I went,
I'm out.
I can't.
There's
I
just
can't
no
be.
care.
Yeah.
I can't be.
What was it like? Remember when we went and that guy, he just repeatedly, we went to, what did I have? Something, and we were people watching. We were at the hospital. I can't remember, but they put us in a bed. Something happened to me physically, I think. Was it physically, or was it when I had my heart palpitation? Was it? And then I remember just like watching this guy walk around. It's not the first time I've had a really negative experience, especially with mental health patients in public hospitals, sitting there. And this guy kept coming up to this nurse, and can you remember what he specifically kept saying? I need to go. I need you to take me now. I need you to take me to the ward now. Take me now. And they just said, okay, it's going to happen, mate. Just go and sit down. And they don't care.
No, they don't care.
Like he's telling you. And the worst part about it is you can be in such pain.
Yeah.
Would he be treated the same way if he'd walked in with his arm missing?
Absolutely, they would. They would take, come on, we're going to take you
Let's
in
go.
here. Yep, let's go.
No urgency whatsoever.
It's interesting what you say about like your experience with it, because just remembering back, a friend of mine to this day, his mum was at the Chermside Hospital, mental health there, and she was in and out. She had a lot of problems, and she just walked out the gate, and she went to Virginia train station, and she jumped in front of a freight train.
Oh wow!
Crazy, man. It
Destroyed a whole family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just, people aren't being heard, and that's
No,
what you
they're
said. They're
not.
not being heard, not having the opportunity to be heard.
How do you let someone like that walk out?
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I called a taxi.
Yeah.
I got a taxi
Yeah.
to pull up to the front door of the hospital. I walked out with my bag and hopped in the taxi and got a taxi home.
So what you're saying is there's really no care in that part of the system.
Well, it's
They
the other
can't
side.
legally hold you there anyway.
Well, they actually can,
They
Hayley.
can.
Yeah.
I know, but do you know what? I went viral for the people came down and interviewed me for the guy that got marched out onto the footpath, right? His words, the head guy came down from the RBWH. P.S. By the way, I'm still going to follow you up, and I'm still going to want some follow-up answers.
I love it.
Just saying.
Yeah.
They marched him out the front,
Hashtag.
put him out
On
onto the
notice.
footpath.
Yeah.
And in his words, he came downstairs. It went viral. It went viral. I was still in the hospital when it went that viral that some guy came down. He says, oh, we had Corey in the hospital, didn't we? My husband had an issue, physical issue, that he was being assessed for. And they were like, that's how quickly it came down. Within a couple of hours, the guy came down and goes, you're Hayley. I was like, oh, He says, "Oh, I want to have a chat with you." I was like, by taking the video down, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And his words were, "You don't understand." I was like, help him. Like, you don't
Yeah.
march someone out. He goes, you don't get it. There's paperwork that we have to do. I said, hold him in. He goes, you can't. It's not that simple. There's paperwork that you have to go through. I said, so if that's not bad enough, what is?
Mm.
Then what hope do the rest of us have? And this guy got
Absolutely.
marched out in his undies,
Bless.
in a hospital gown,
Yeah.
shaking, wasn't he? It was
Don't-
awful.
I think we also need to look at the other side of it as well too. There is some parts of the system that do
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
Like we can't just
Oh, yeah, not going
Yeah.
to slate them all.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah, I get it.
but there is I think one of the biggest problems is the system is overloaded, and the right tools are not in the system as well too. So, that not everything can be fixed with a tablet.
The people were amazing. And I did say that the people were amazing, but it's the powers that be in the policies. It's not. I get that, and you're only as good as the red tape, especially in those types of situations. So.
But if we're not teaching skill, like this is if we're actually going to have a change and a shift in mental health and in wellness, it's something that needs to become part of our education system. It's something that needs to become part of our generations. Our children need to learn mindfulness. They need to learn yoga. They need to learn breath. They need to
schools.
they need to meditate.
Yeah.
Start to bring in those ways of communicating and teach. Like if we're going to get a generational
Emotional
shift,
intelligence.
emotional intelligence. That's exactly it.
And teach them what emotions feel like to feel. Like there was going back to the mental
How to handle.
hospital. Yeah, how to handle them. There was a girl who was put into the mental hospital, and she was sitting there, and all she was just writing I ams just to show them that she was okay. I am. They sedated her because she was sitting there writing I am statements.
God.
And it's exactly
Trying to get control, trying
to show them that I'm okay.
Direct, yeah.
And they sedated her. So there are so many, like you were saying, there are, parts of the mental hospital or parts of the system that are there to help us, but there are a lot of the parts of the systems that aren't there to help us.
I think one of the problems that I've discovered was you go to the doctor, you get 10 free visits to a psychologist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then you go there and you build rapport with that psychologist. I had one. She was amazing. I won't say her name, but she was amazing. She helped me out so much when my brother and mum passed. And then they go from those free visits to, we have to charge you $160 now.
Yeah. And how deflating for someone who can't pay
Can't.
that.
I can't afford it. So I haven't been back. So I've had to try and find my own ways to do it. And I've got an old friend of mine. He's 76 now. Amazing. He's really pulled me out of that spot where you just go, shit, what am I going to do? So I think a lot of people need to have that really older person in their life to show them something different.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking
Try
about. You're talking
something
about community.
Yeah,
You're talking-
100%.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
who you surround you. But how
Bingo.
great is it that you did those 10 sessions and it got you to a point where you were able to at least have clarity enough
Yeah.
to get to that point,
Yeah.
But it's also something men need to do for each other. Like if you look at the suicide rates, men's male suicide is higher than female suicide.
Yep.
And I look at it I look at it and have a belief that we have a generation of men that came back broken from wars with PTSD.
Yeah.
And still do.
And
Still do, yeah.
they're there, but just work with me here. They came back from World War I and World War II, and they were broken, and no one knew what was wrong with them, and no one was there to help them talk through. And so, men, you've had a generation of men and women to a degree, with the amount of women that went to the wars as well, that came back and raised new men with those same broken traits of don't open up, don't talk. Like it's this.
Get on with it,
men don't
Be a
cry.
man.
No matter that it's not masculine to be vulnerable. When actual, don't be a sook about it. You don't express your emotion. So it creates that issue within men that we don't open up to each other because we don't want to be vulnerable in front of other men, because the other men, to a certain degree, don't know how to hear us. The men that have done the work, there's men out there that you can open up to and talk to, and you can tell them everything, and they'll actually hold the space for you and get you through it. But this is a problem that is in our society. We've had this generational pattern of broken men raising more broken men, and it continues and it continues and it continues.
It also goes with like the loyalty part of that too, or the trust.
Yeah.
Trying to actually open up and tell someone, your deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah.
a lot of that you don't want to come out,
Yeah.
you know, because sometimes, you know, people will try and use it against you in the long run.
That's right.
There are a lot of, which I think is amazing, a lot of men's groups that are coming out
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
Men's Medicine,
Mankind Project.
Mankind Project.
Yeah, Blokes United is another
Yeah.
one too, they're always on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So there's some groups that now where men can go, and you necessarily don't have to be feeling like you want to take your life, but you could be wanting a change, or you could be wanting to learn how to, get the best out of yourself, or
not having a lack of purpose and feeling
having like a
lost
purpose.
is
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
Well, especially for when I've had suicide, that's me. It's kind of like scratching around for something to hold on to.
Mm.
Is that your like personality or yourself as a person sitting there going, I can't fucking take this anymore, and you're like vibrating from inside out, just going, I need to do something, but there's so many things on the outside holding you down.
Yeah.
Job, loans, all this monetary side of things, trying to keep up with somebody else for what they have.
Society,
Yeah. And when you can just sit back and just go, you know what?
I can change this.
I want to go jump out of a plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go and do that. Go and do
Which is
bungee
the whole
jumping.
choosing your identity,
Bingo. Yeah.
What can I change? Well, I can't change what's happening, like I might be able not be able to change your job, but you can change how you choose to see yourself.
You could change your job,
You can
though.
change your job, yeah.
100%. And I think a lot of people that have a shit job and a shit boss don't need that. And you can turn around and say, well, I've got more self-worth and
Nat
go
doesn't
and
have
get
a shit
another
boss.
job.
Just saying.
but let's say someone's in the situation where they're like, okay, they're stuck in this, they're not stuck, but they're in this moment of, okay, well, I've got this job and I'm unhappy in all these things in my life. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you might change your job, you might change that, but if you're not happy within, it's still going to be the same. You're going to
follow that
gonna
shit.
follow you.
Yeah.
So, it's about, changing
Inner
your
work.
identity, inner work. Absolutely. All right. Well, what can I change about myself? Even if it's that little thing, because someone who, let's say, goes to church for 20 years straight, well, they are religious, right? Someone who picks up a guitar once, they're not a musician, but if you play the guitar over and over and over again, we become a musician. So it's finding those things in your life that you like to do and those little tiny changes. Practicing, and repetition then becomes the thing.
So that's really, that's a great, really great articulate way to actually explain. It's not going to be a quick fix.
No.
Especially when it happens. If you practice, if you're constant, you can practice your way into and out of something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really I like that. I enjoy it.
And also change the thought that you have around the circumstance.
Absolutely.
It's the thought that leads to the feeling and the emotion that then leads to the action.
It's a trigger, like smoking, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's all how we the circumstance is the circumstance. You have actually a choice on how to think about what thought you want to have around that circumstance, and if you can make the circumstance as neutral as possible, that's where you can change the feeling in an instant by just having a better thought. And don't think that all thoughts are your own thoughts either.
No,
I love
that's
that.
amazing.
Actually, no, wait, can you just go into that? Because I freaking love that. We've had this conversation a few times.
Yeah. So
This is epic.
if you imagine as humans, we're all connected into a Wi-Fi. Like there's an energy that floats around this planet, and we're all connected into it. And you either choose to recognize it or you don't choose to recognize it, but you're still connected into it. So if you look at the fear state that society's been put in at the moment around COVID, there's times there where I caught myself going, "Oh my God, there's a virus! Oh my goodness!" And I sat back and I went, "Hang on a second, really? Hang on, whose thought's that? Is that my thought or is that the collective's thought?"
Collective.
And this is the thing that we need to realize is that our thoughts aren't our thoughts. They're just like all four of us at this table have all thought about suicide. So is it really actually my thought, or is it your thought, or is it?
There's more of us. Hang on, because there's people off camera. Corey, have you ever thought about it? Suicide. Yeah. Nah.
Yeah.
We're all looking
Dun,
at you.
dun, dun. Have you? Never.
Never.
No.
Or even, sometimes our thoughts are also instilled by, maybe our parents, like what you're feeling that you are was put there from someone else. It's actually not, wasn't, someone that thinks that they're not good at something. Well, was it you that said that you're not good at something, or was it your father or your mother or your brother or your peers? So
It's like the filter that's been installed.
absolutely.
How you see the world until you recognize that you actually have a choice to remove
Mhm.
the filter and actually choose your path. Like this is the thing, we're humans, we're free. That means you're free to have the thoughts that you want to have. You're free to do what you actually choose to do. That we have a system,
But
and
freedom is also a perception
Absolutely.
and a
then,
choice.
Yeah. And then the
Yeah.
ones that there are some people that just can't click out, they go, it's so easy because, you might be able to think that you can change that thought, but I can't because I'm stuck. So, I suggest that go and do something that just lights you up a little bit, even if it's just
fun.
get in your garden.
Yeah.
Even if it's
Get
put
in
on
your garden.
Yeah, get in your garden,
Or anyone else's garden. If you don't have a garden,
Mm.
go frolic in someone's garden.
Absolutely.
It'll be fine.
Pick the council
Go on a
flowers.
walk.
We
or
encourage it.
take yourself out of that, take yourself
Rut.
out of your house or out of
Yeah.
that
Closed off environment.
environment. Whack a song on, put some music on. If it's eating your favorite sandwich, eat that sandwich and let your eyes roll back because it's peanut butter and honey. Just saying, it's so good.
Delicious.
You're not meant to eat it with
No.
a spoon, Renee.
Oh, I know. I eat peanut butter straight out of the
Do you?
jar.
My son does too.
I
should
do
try
love
that.
peanut butter.
Okay, try that. It's all these little tiny things that are little tiny small steps, and then you feel good. And you're like, oh, I feel good.
Yeah.
And then what comes after that?
But what happens when something that makes you feel good is bad?
Like what?
Like what?
Wine, smoking.
It's all in
Drugs.
balance, Okay,
go
well,
ahead.
when we go,
Moderation's the key, isn't it?
well, I guess that's a
'Cause this
fake good, though. Like I'm talking about things that, like, go to the park, go feed the ducks, like connect to nature, like that sort of stuff. Because if you're taking
You
drugs,
almost need like a do and a don't list.
or you're drinking
Actual
wine,
things that are good.
they're low vibrational, so they're going to make you feel down afterwards. Bushwalking,
Get
yeah.
Walk on the
honestly.
beach barefoot.
Yeah,
Beach
connect with
Nature.
nature.
Anything nature.
Nature.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 And get out of that environment. I remember years ago, there was a time where I would get out of the house and I'd get home and I'd shut all my curtains. I had to have all my curtains shut. I felt safe inside that, in my environment, inside that house, because no one could see me, but no one was who's looking at me. I look back at that now, but at the time it was like,
People could have
it
been.
was that safety thing of the curtains are
Yeah.
closed. I feel safe in here,
Yeah.
in my mind, in my space, in my realm. But then you step out of it, and it's even going down the road to get that coffee or walking out on the street. You're then getting into the fresh air. Take note of the flowers, the birds, the butterflies. Like, it sounds really woo-woo and
No, that's presence, though.
but it's
that's actually being
coming back
present.
into
Yeah.
presence.
Well, that's what you do with anxiety.
Absolutely.
And when I had my anxiety attack, and the one thing that they would say is you've actually just got to, if you've got paper in your hand, how does the
feel it.
paper feel?
Yeah.
Take note of the sounds. What can you actually
smell?
hear? Focus on it and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
And then that takes
Presence.
you out of that moment,
I want to go back to, because we didn't really kind of get to the bottom. Because I think yours is probably like your story to me. I know that you've had such an really brush. You were literally brought back, people rubbing your chest.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty crazy. What was the next step? Because you didn't really complete it. So the next step after you had got down off nowhere because you didn't find the bloody ladder, but after you'd taken everything off, what were the next few days and weeks like? What did you do to get past that point?
Out of that
I went.
feeling.
The rut.
No, it deteriorated for me. I had 3 months where I just didn't go to work. I actually had a complete.
After that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It was that I'd reached my threshold. And then I had a serious mental breakdown. There was days there where I never left the bedroom. I just couldn't function. But mind you, they were.
I look at you and knowing you, I just go, wow, I just don't, I couldn't. It must you, because I think you're incredible. I think you.
Thank you, Harley.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're just such an effervescent person. So for me to have that kind of polar experience, or even hearing about it, and this is why it's incredible. And I'm so grateful that every single one of you in here is sharing your experiences, because it's important to hear this.
Yeah.
The people that you look at that seemingly have their shit together and are all upbeat and everything else, you got to that point.
Yeah, and I just couldn't face I couldn't face anything. My mobile phone would ring, and in the end, I had to get it out of the room. It was just because at a period of time there, I'm going, what more? What else could be going?
Everything was triggering you.
Everything, just anything and everything was triggering me in every which way. And there was a point and the other side of it too, I had to go back up after I broke out. They then contacted my wife and said, you need to bring him back up. He's left without any, he's quite serious.
Yeah.
We're concerned about him. You need to bring him back up, and he needs to sit in front of the psychiatrist. And he needs to talk to the psychiatrist. And anyway, I started talking to the psychiatrist, and he was talking through with me, and he just said, you do realise I can detain you here. And they'd taken me down into a ward where they actually can lock the door. Like, they can lock the doors and keep you in there.
It's threatening.
Yeah.
Yes, and the whole strapping in
and kind of like
sedating.
you don't behave like.
Yeah, so he diagnosed me and gave me
What did he
prescription.
diagnose you with?
Severe depression, and he gave me Lexapro.
What are the chances?
Fitting.
What a chance of that.
Yeah, or Prozac, or that's some of the other antidepressants that they give people as well, which is it's the Band-Aid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mask.
did you take those tablets, or did you?
I took them, and I think it made me worse. In all
How long
honesty,
did you take them for?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I had the same experience.
I
I've
took
only
the-
ever tried them like for a couple of weeks, and it was just like,
Yeah,
no, it made me feel bad.
same.
Yeah, it was about
Yourself, do you?
They
it was
lock
about
you in. 'Cause
it was
they're
about
like-
3 weeks. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I said to him, I said, this stuff's not working. He said, oh, maybe we need to just wean you off it, and
Or you've got to give it a
Or they
chance.
say,
or
let's up your dose
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
let's try
You know?
let's try something else.
Yeah.
And I just went, okay, and I came out of there and went,
nah.
this isn't working. I can get myself better.
Yeah.
And this is the step. And the point came is I've got to get myself better. I can't. I'm not functioning. I need to get myself better. And this is not working.
Changed your mindset.
Change
Yeah,
the thought straight
absolutely.
away.
And I said that to the doctor too. Is I can give you some tablets. And I said, but I created it. I'll fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the catalyst,
That's,
the
and that's
catalyst for
powerful.
me
100%.
Mm.
was, because I had the antidepressants as well, and then it was
Were you
when
on them
I
for long?
only a few months, and then if I didn't take one, what would happen was it would get like these shocks up the back of my head.
Yeah,
It
well,
wouldn't stop happening.
anxiety, that is.
Until I took a tablet. And then as soon as I took the tablet, within 20 minutes, the shocks that were going up the back of my brain would stop. So I went to the doctor and I don't know what's going on. Like, you're telling me that these aren't addictive. You're telling me that these are going to just help me get through what it is that I'm getting through.
But it's dropping because it's a serotonin level. And
Yeah.
it's dropping you back into a state of anxiety.
Absolutely. And he
Yeah.
said, but they're not addictive. I'm like, well, if they're not addictive, why am I having these reactions? And that was the first awakening for me of, hang on a minute. Well, I don't need these tablets because they make me feel like this. So
Make me feel
what
like
can I do?
Please, they said the same thing to us. It was kind of like when we both there's my sister and I actually went together in Sydney, and that's the first time I ever got antidepressants. And the reality of it, I was 21, 22. I was partying too much, drinking,
Mhm,
just carrying on like a pork chop. And I'm like, I don't know, actually. And the same thing, I had to check to make sure I wasn't surrounded by, and I was surrounded by terrible influence.
Yeah.
And I remember them saying, I was like, it makes me feel sick.
Mm.
It actually made me feel
Nauseous.
physically sick. How could this be? No, but you just got to bear with it.
Yeah.
And then the
It
worst
will
part,
pass.
right? The worst part is, oh no, you can't just take yourself off them.
Yeah.
No.
You've got to
Yeah.
wean
I'm like,
yourself off.
Okay, well, why, what? That didn't
Mm.
that freaked me out. Did not make any sense to me. So we've got 2 minutes. So I've got to wrap this up. But
Okay.
no, it's all right. It's all good. I don't know. I don't want to kind of chop into the conversation. It was going good.
Yeah.
I actually just want to quickly touch back onto that. The 10 sessions.
Yeah.
That 10 session thing for me is, I don't like that process
Mm.
at
Mm.
all.
Mm.
Because
Passing
you
the buck.
go and the first thing you hear when you're saying to somebody, I'm feeling shit, I need help, I got to go see a psychologist.
You've got to go on a mental
Yeah.
health
A
plan.
mental health plan. Oh, what?
What? I've got to,
Yeah.
got to plan my mental health out.
I think a lot of people don't actually want to go for that because then they are in the system.
Yes,
Mhm.
100%.
And those
It's on record.
questionnaires or whatever they are, the multiple choice you fill out, they're so easy to false anyway.
Absolutely. You can say anything on them.
Doesn't matter. Get
Yeah.
a high rating if you want to.
Yeah.
So what's the solution?
Like I said in the first one, I'd really like to see a group of people, maybe us, go into schools, high schools.
Mm.
That's the most critical age, I believe.
Mm. Absolutely.
And really talk to them about their life choices. What do they want to do?
Yeah.
How do they want to do it?
Yeah.
And if, being a lawyer is not their path, well, okay, you like cooking. Let's go into a kitchen.
Yeah.
And just build a massive group of different companies that can take these kids on at different ages through those, maybe warehousing,
Mm.
kitchens, holistic side of things, medicine, whatever. Get them to do that.
It's amazing you say that because I'm in the process of doing that.
Yeah.
So we're going in to speak to year 11 and 12 students, but I feel that
Incredible,
we
yeah.
need to go in younger again. I feel it needs to be all
I think you should in the beginning.
students.
If you want to, and this is the thing, and if you want to change the system, you've got to become part of the system. And this is the worst part because
Mhm.
most people, I don't want to be part of that system. It's like, yeah, but you've got to
Have to.
become part of the system
Mhm.
to change the system, understand, play the rules.
Mhm.
Then you can break the system and then you can change it and then you'll have impactful, lasting change.
It's because they always bring in people like cricketers and, tennis
Yeah.
players. Oh, he was this was so
Unattainable.
great. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
can't live up to
It's
that.
a reality.
No, bring in real people and
Real
sit there and
people.
talk to these kids and go, this is where it's at.
Mm.
This is the real world.
Mhm.
Here's your choices.
Mhm.
This is what I've seen.
Here's Bob. Here's
Yeah.
Bob, who's a truck driver
Yeah.
from up the road, or he owns a sandwich shop, or he's an employee, works at Macca's. That's more
Absolutely.
real than
Yeah.
having these mega stars and
Yeah.
leveraging off influence.
Well,
but I get why
it's
they do
fake.
it.
Yeah, and they're going to look up to them and go, well, I'm never going to be that. So
That's not
why
gonna
am I
happen to
going to
me.
listen?
And
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
the examples that our sporting stars are setting for
Oh,
our children are
yeah.
just atrocious.
Well, here's the
So
interesting.
they're not, they should not be put up as celebrities and talented because some of the things they do off the field or off the court or whatever sport they're doing is just atrocious. It's
Yeah,
not how
bars
humans act.
afterwards.
It's not how humans act.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's about decent people being able to communicate and learn the
Real.
art of communication with real communication.
People that have been through real life things and real experiences and come out of that and now, doing this or doing that or showing them that you don't necessarily have to go this way. And it's okay if you don't go that way because maybe your way is this way.
Well, everyone's got many paths.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a tree with branches. It just
Yeah.
depends on which one you want to take at which part of your life.
Absolutely. Even my son, when he left school
Choices.
earlier,
100%.
he decided to take up a trade, but he was kicking him like he was going over and over like, Mum, but I'm not finishing year 12. But that's okay because you don't have to finish year
No, you
12.
don't. No.
You can go down this path. This is your journey and you're still doing something, but it's
Well, lucky he's
Yeah.
got a mum like you. So I'm going to go and basically say thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Again,
It's amazing.
you are always amazing.
Thank you.
And thank you for being and sharing your story.
I just wanted to listen to Alexis, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
So
it's
much
pretty
amazing.
crazy, yeah.
I was happy to sit back. It was really good.
Oh, there's so much
thanks.
more. There is a lot like there's so much more to it. So like I want to kind of like dig and all that kind of stuff. But
or
we will.
what if sorry to interrupt you, Hayley, what if the audience tells us something that they would like us to cover?
Yeah.
Oh no, I've got it. So we're basically going to do like the whole kind of like I want to go back and I would like to talk about how influencers influence our young minds' mental health,
Mhm.
and that's really important,
Mhm.
especially from going what you just said and what you said, which is the sports stars and everything else.
Yeah.
Are we choosing and is, I suppose, our sporting institutions and all the who's responsible for putting these people up on pedestals?
Who's behind that?
Yeah, I think that kind of is much deeper, and you can't really break it because like they make people famous for reasons and whatever have you, and they get a following for whatever reason. But like, how much of a responsibility do they have when it comes to how our young minds are actually viewing themselves and kind of taking on that influence?
And
So,
do the sponsors control it?
100% they do.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you very much to you, Renee.
Thank you.
You're always amazing.
Yeah.
You're a legend.
I always love coming on here.
Yeah, your story. Again, like you have an incredible story that we'll get to at some point, because you have a whole back catalogue.
I have like, which chapter would you like me to read?
it's actually
Not released yet.
yeah, and it's awesome. And this is what
Yeah.
I love because you're literally looking at 4 pretty like damaged people, as
Yeah.
in labeled, right? Mental
Yes.
health. We've been in the system,
Yeah.
and like we should be broken, right? But there's all 4 of us, and I think I can speak for every single one of us. We're all very
Yeah.
upbeat, positive.
Absolutely.
Um,
Labels only belong on cans, guys.
Yeah, correct.
That's it.
Mm.
You can change your label anytime.
Absolutely.
You really can. New printers and sticky stuff and glue us back together. Thank you, Lex, for joining us and being so candid and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
No, not a
And
problem.
hopefully you'll come back again and
Yeah,
we'll
definitely.
dig a little bit deeper. So guys, I want to get you to please follow us on all of our things and our stuff. So we've got Instagram, go and follow us over there on Obsessed Hub HQ. We also have TikTok on Obsessed Hub. We've got Facebook. We've got the group. Absolutely everybody. What else have we got, Natalie? YouTube. We've got the YouTube. Follow us on YouTube as well. So hit the subscribe button and follow us. Thanks for joining.